Can you imagine your life where money is your friend, working with you to achieve all your dreams and desires? If you struggle seeing money as your friend, then join Kathy Cook Noble, financial advisor and educator on understanding how your money can work for you. It is possible. Now, here is Financially Speaking with Kathy Cook Noble.
Good afternoon and welcome to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. And tonight you have myself, Kathy Cook Noble, and our co-host, Brent Beshara, known to many as Besh. He's our lifestyle coach and contributor that comes on. We get him every quarter, but we try and squeeze him in a little bit more than that so he can share with us some wisdoms and some planning actually, and some really great lifestyle tips because as you know, financially speaking, we talk about money and we talk about what different concepts mean and terms and things that confuse people. And we always tell people that you can definitely understand your stuff because there's no question about it. The confusion I find usually comes when you're trying to understand these bigger concepts that you see and hear on TV that really have nothing to do with you, that you're never going to be part of anyway. And it just is overwhelming to a lot of people. So we break it down, and all the shows that we have come from a recommendation or question or confusion from somebody that's either a friend, a family member, or someone I work with, or someone that I get chatting with, and they're like, you should do this as a show. And I'm like, okay. So we do that because what I do know in my life on a daily basis as a financial advisor and a bookkeeper in a finance business, that it's not just one person that has that question. So when someone says to me, listen, I don't really understand how mortgages work, or I really don't understand how my bank fees work, then they're not the only one. So that's why we do the show. So if there's anything out there that you have some questions about, write in, join us live on Monday nights. We're always here live, and you can join us in the chat room. If for some reason you can't join us live, then the great news is we have a new app that is 100% free. You can download it either for your Android or for your iPhone in the Apple Store. It's 100% free. You can listen to us on the go. You can join us with the TV. We're on over 250 platforms, and we're always happy to have people write in and ask questions or recommend to us shows. And I always invite people to plug in to the other hosts on the show, because the Inspired Choices Network is all about a holistic approach to your life. My portion is a small part. It's the financial part. It's an important part. And I say that because we all need money to live, not because money is important and we should put more emphasis on it. Because I always tell people there's no emotion in money. It doesn't have any for you, and you shouldn't have it for it. You should treat it as just a tool of your life that you need. And the best part is on our show, we're able to now have one of our own special hosts and contributors. And that's where Brent comes in. He comes to us to share a lot of insight and wisdom into your lifestyle, and how your lifestyle and your mindset actually has an effect on your finances, and not to mention everything else. So we're excited to have you back tonight, Brent. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a treat.
All the way from the East Coast of Canada.
Yeah, so, that's right. Furthest point east. Yeah.
You are. Yeah. So for those of you just joining us, Besh is all the way out in the East Coast of Canada. I'm in the middle of Canada. I'm in Ontario. And for those of you that aren't from Canada, you'll know, or you may know, that Canada is a huge landmass. It's huge. So there's tons and tons of miles between us, but with the technology and today and all the great opportunities we have, we're able to join each other and come together to share some insights. So welcome to the show. Welcome back. Happy springing forward.
Absolutely. Happy spring equinox coming up on it.
That's right. We're moving into a new phase of the year, which is always exciting. And we have St. Patrick's Day coming up in the next couple of days. And I find that it's always nice to have something to look forward to. And sometimes people get caught up in having a great big event or a great big trip or a great big something to look forward to when there's so many opportunities and there's so many things that we can be grateful for every day, quite honestly. So I'm always excited that you and I get to spend time together, because I feel like I get more out of it than you do, or even our listeners. But I have to tell you, I've been so looking forward to it. Lori Hawkins and Lori's our guest host on strategy and business implementation. And her and I were chatting about it last week when we were winding up our International Women's Day series. And both of us were like, we can't wait, because we're both, and I don't want to use the word try, because we actually are doing it, but we are definitely in the process of learning more about the Wim Hof method and having a healthier and more exciting and fulfilling lifestyle that we know you've been practicing for many years. So I'm super excited to chat with you tonight about that. And I know Lori's listening, and she's excited too.
Right on. Again, thanks for having me. I love this show. And I like what you said here about springing forward. Just to recap, I served in the military for 24 years, and with that comes some hardships, but also comes with some tips and tricks. So if we're looking at springing forward, the days are getting longer now. How cool is that? As we hit this equinox, light overtakes darkness by 51%, right? And we celebrate that. So for me, I find that things like diets and fads and those, what do you do that in January 1st? You make that
Oh yeah, those
declaration, right? I find
resolutions
yeah,
that never go
that. Well, why doesn't it work? Because we actually don't believe it's going to work. Actually, we are, like I always say, we are the result of ourselves. So we are who we are, and a tree falls the way it leans. So if we lean towards our health and happiness, de facto and mathematically, we're going to get more of that. But if we lean towards what's wrong and what's missing, we're going to create more of that. So for me, what I figured out after my time in the military, after my 24 years, I was on medications. I was all beat up, busted ankles, knees, back, neck, all that stuff. But what I could do was walk, right? So I could walk, and that's what I still do. I still walk. I walk. I do deep breathing exercises and yoga. Hashtag yoga saved my life. So what it became, it wasn't an all-out rush for the finish line. I'm going to do all the yoga I can in one day and all that stuff. It was a process of just taking care of myself and doing what works for me. And in the beginning, it was as simple as 5 minutes for 5 days. Just a bit of commitment to myself. When I got out of the military, I learned how to breathe. I took up yoga, learned how to meditate. If we were to pick up one practice out of all that, meditation is there's a biological superpower for our mind. It allows us to witness the bats, the squirrels, and the monkeys spinning around in the belfry, to learn that they're just going to do that. That's what they do. But if we hang out with them, we're going to get absorbed and enrolled in the chaos of the belfry of our mind. Whereas our role is just to let them work on it. Like, what do I need to work on next? Where do I want to go? And then I find that the squirrels and the bats go find that information for me. My mind's a tool, but I'm not my mind. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I have bowel movements, but I'm not my bowel movements. Remember, feelings are like flashes, no different than a burp, shit, sneeze, fart, laugh, orgasm. It's a process of the body. But if I don't handle my mind and learn how to process it, I'm going to get bunged up emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Because again, if I hang on to a number 2 for too long, I'm going to get bunged up. Well, feelings are no different than flatulence. If I hang on to my feelings and don't learn how to process them, I'm going to get bunged up. How we solve that is by learning how to meditate. And I think in our last show, we ran through a little meditation. So there's some great meditations out there. You go to guided meditation on the tube, and you'll find a gabillion in 0.03 seconds. So the information's out there. So how do we get that forward? How do we move that forward in our life and make it a commitment? Well, because it's lifestyle. If we say we're going to do a fad or that resolution or a diet, that doesn't work. What works is lifestyle, just committing to who we're going to be. And it doesn't have to be taking it all off in one chunk. It's just the gradual approach. What works for me right now? And again, we're monkeys, right? So we do monkey things. That's okay, as long as we're not so hard on ourselves and berating ourselves and putting ourselves down, saying, hey, you know what? I got this. I can do this. Because whether we think we can or we can't, we're right. But if we think we can, we're halfway there. So that little bit of commitment, a little bit of commitment to ourselves. And like for me, it's taking stock of the situation. So Kellyanne and I have been working at this for years, and it's always better with a buddy. But we have every Monday, we call it Money Mondays, and we go through the logistics and the operations of our life. And in taking stock, we've been able to now, like at Sonate, I love the spring forward conversation because it's cleaning out the closets. It's cleaning out those spaces, knowing what we have. Oh my gosh, I haven't opened this can of beans for 10 years. Do I still need this? Things like that. But as we learn, cluttered closets, a cluttered mind. So we just commit 2 hours every Monday to a space. Maybe it's a closet, maybe it's a room, a bookcase, whatever. We go through the old t-shirts. Just, do I need those t-shirts from 1982? I don't know. Maybe I still do. But at least let's look at them. Let's touch them. And the stuff we throw out, I've learned to throw it out with gratitude. Thank everything, right? Just say, thanks so much, t-shirt from 1982, and move it on to whoever and whatever. But that's it, taking that little bit of stock, a little bit of commitment. I find that there's an ROI, there's a return of that investment to ourselves. Next thing you know, the house is painted, we've got some landscaping done, but it didn't take long. It was just 2 hours every Monday. And next thing you know, all the closets are cleaned up, the downstairs storage has been vetted and sorted. And it's like, wow, that only took like a month. But 2 hours, what's 2 hours versus watching 2 hours of the tube? Let's just commit to ourselves. And so that little bit of commitment to ourselves has really paid off. And now we've been doing it for a few years. And wow, we're very happy, because we've done that work to sort out those logistics, again, doing the list. And so what I've seen is we found charges. We went through all of our payments for all, like we have offsite backup, we've got website platforms that we're monitoring, we've got things like that. And so we went through it. We've saved now several $100s by going through old programs and apps and stuff that oh my God, we're paying for that. Like Netflix practically doubled its prices overnight. And so we switched to the Disney Channel. That saves us, that's those ShamWow expenditures that do add up. As like use your bank machine, don't use the other bank machines because that costs you $2.50, $3.50, $5 sometimes. So, these little commitments, talking with a financial advisor, that was one of the most important things we did because it got us this house. We thought we had so huge debt, but we found that actually with just some tips and tricks, some tools, some skills, some drills, we were able to put a down payment. Now we live in our house of dreams, right? So, it's little steps, but if we don't know, like sailing, like I learned in the Navy, if we don't know where we are or where we're going, in years to come, we're going to end up somewhere else doing something else. But if we make a plan, a call to action for ourselves, have an end in mind, going from A to where we are to B where we want to be, and we make that plan, that's why we check in once a week to reinforce that plan, that vision of the future. And then nature seems to collaborate to make that happen, right? It just seems to happen. We meet the right people, the traffic opens up, we find the parking spot because we're in alignment with ourselves mentally and physically and spiritually. We're in alignment. It's not like we're living in coherence versus the discoherence. Our mind and our body are saying the same thing. But if we live with discoherence, our mind's saying one thing, but our body's saying another thing. We're going to create colliding waves of intention. Whereas when we're online and we're both firing for effect, that's the ShamWow moment. That's the ShamWow effect in life, I find. Again, don't take my word for it. It's only my best guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're right on, and it's so great to hear because you give some really good tips for people. And we're coming up to our first break. We have about a minute for our first break, but I do want to ask you when we come back, like, people, I totally agree. The resolutions people make in January are just setting themselves up for disappointment. And, I think if you're going to, don't wait for January. If you want to change something, do it now. If you want to quit smoking, you don't have to wait for January. You can do it today. And if you want to lose weight and change your lifestyle, you can do it today. And this is all, I think, easy, but it's not easy. And when we come back from the break, I do want to ask you, what happens when you get off track or when you get a little bit sideways, and how long did it take you guys to get, and I don't want to say perfected because I know you're improving all the time, but how did it take you to get into the rhythm of your Mondays? And what happened when you missed a Monday? Did you make it up, or did you commit to doing it, say, let's get back on track for our Mondays? And so these are things that I want to ask you when we come back. I'm also going to share with you a little story about this weekend. Actually, our youngest was home from school and we watched a movie called The Secret, Dare to Dream. and it's new on Disney Plus. And you made me think of it, and I'm gonna share with it because it talks a lot about what you just talked about. So we're gonna take our first break of the night. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Kathy Cook-Noble, and my co-host tonight is Brent Beshara, and he is our lifestyles contributor to help us every quarter, and hopefully when we get him a little bit more often, with keeping us on track and having that overall healthy lifestyle. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Kathy Cook-Noble, and our co-host tonight is Brent Beshara, our lifestyle contributor. Just before the break, we were talking to Brent about some of the tricks and tips that he's done through the years, and the fact that he's been through the years with them. And I was just telling you that on the weekend there's a new movie that came out, and it was kind of interesting because I find at home, like when we're going to take time and invest in watching a movie or something like that, I want it to be something that isn't going to waste my time. So I'm always about, if it's no good of a movie, I don't want to watch it because it's a waste of my time, and time's very valuable. So this new movie came out, I was saying, was The Secret, A Dare to Dream. And it's a cute movie with Katie Holmes and Josh Lucas. And the whole premise of it is based on the secret and the law of attraction and how you attract into your life what you want. And it was kind of cool because Josh Lucas's character is the guy who was weaving that wisdom in the movie and sharing it with the other characters. And it makes me think of you because I was like, I knew you were coming on tonight. And I was like, what perfect timing. Because, the clock went ahead, the sun's coming out earlier and longer. And there's this new movie out talking about what you put out in life is what you receive. And I was like, this is pretty cool. So I don't know if you've seen it. It's just come out as far as I know. I just happened to come across it. And I always hear, the different things that you and I talk about, what you put into your head is affecting, what you're attracting and what you're bringing into your life and that. So I know it's for people, I always tell them, and I tell the kids, it's really important where you spend your time and what you listen to and what you watch and who you hang around with, because all that goes into the computer and it comes out the way that you're processing it. And you want to be careful because it, could potentially be dangerous, but I also want to talk to you about what you do because it took you and Carrie Ann, sorry. I always do that. but it took you guys a little while to get the rhythm, I think, didn't it, of your Money Mondays and your setting, knowing that it was 2 hours and not an hour and a half or 3 hours or whatever the formula is, and how that worked out. How did you get into that rhythm, and what did you do when you fell off the wagon a little bit and it didn't go exactly as planned?
Yeah, great questions. And it has taken years. And luckily for me, Kellyanne's amazing. You know, she's a lady that once her mind is set, it's happening. So that's great. You know, it's because I was always looking for a partner that was also motivated when I'm not, because I'm not always motivated. And so that's great. So we have that balance. When we fall off, it's, well, firstly, again, we weren't, my parents and her parents weren't entrepreneurs. So we had to make it up from the very beginning. It wasn't like her parents or my parents were, so we knew the biz. We knew no biz. We were making it up. So from my knife making background and working trade shows and her background of selling high-end chocolates and high-end fabric, we got together and put our resources together and came up with our businesses. So then we took from the military the concept of doing that Money Mondays, the Monday Mash list every Monday. So then we wrote out the list of things that we're going to do once a week, you know, with the flexibility to be able to, hey, this week we have family in town, and to be able to shift left and right accordingly. But when we do fall off the wagon, and that happens, it's like, wow, we haven't done it for a while, now is always the right time, right? So now is always the right time, right? Do we want to do it now, or do we want to wait till Monday? And then committing, again, all nature asks is a little bit of commitment to commitment. So when we give that much towards it, she's there. Nature provides. And when we, you know, nature, God, the divine, the matrix, life will work with us, but not for us. All they're asking is that we take the first step in the direction that we're going, right? So again, if we don't know where we are and who we are, we're going to end up somewhere else doing something else, someplace else. But if we have a goal in mind, setting a goal, like the pilot says, put your own mask on first. So we're the most important persons in our world, not our family, not our friends, not our parents, not our children. We are, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, we can't be there for others. For me to be this chipper kind of guy, I got to go in the pond, you know, in the ice, I got to do my breaths, and that creates my sanity, right? You mentioned earlier about the law of attraction. I've been studying that, you know, since I got out of the military. And I've kind of always known that, what the law of attraction my whole life, because whatever I've put out is what I've gotten back, what I focused on, I've attracted. We reap what we sow continuously. But one thing that Rhonda Byrne hasn't really emphasized, and I'm a little miffed about, because she's, in the beginning, she had the world like in 2000, you know, 2000, 2002, when that book came out, she had the world in the palm of her hands. But there's steps to the law of attraction. It's intention and action, choices and accountability. But she never told us about the action phase. It's all about the intention. That's great. But if we do nothing, nothing happens. The bag of money is not going to rocket through the ceiling, right? We work in a field of information that responds to the laws of natural trade and commerce. Like when I invented the strongest knife tip in the world back in 2001, I was in my shop in Stayner, Ontario, working in my shop, and said, wow, I've got this, the strongest knife tip in the world. Great. But nobody knows about it. And I had this moment of fear, like, oh my gosh, if I do nothing, nothing happens. If it is to be, it's up to me. So then I just got at it. I started attending 2 trade shows a year, the SHOT Show in Vegas and the SHOT Show in Vegas and the Blade Show in Atlanta. And I would go to those 2 trade shows a year, licensing my designs. And to date, I've approached over 150 knife companies, right? Because they're all going to be in that one room. So I called ahead, arranged a meeting, signed the non-disclosure, presented my invention to them, right? And so thus I've got, you know, like 10%, 18% approval of designs and royalties and such. But it wasn't going to happen by itself. No one was going to go, oh my God, you've done it. You've solved my engineering problem. That's exactly what I was looking for. That wasn't going to happen. But in order for me to protect my intellectual property, because there's 2 ways to do it. I was following the what's that game? Anyways, it doesn't matter. Be first, be best. Right. So in doing that, if you play the patent game, patenting is keeping everything close hold to your chest. But in intellectual property, you want everybody to know. So I had to go to these 2 trade shows, make it happen, and show them my invention. And then from that, I let over 150 knife companies know about my invention. I've been in articles around the world, but that wasn't going to happen if I just sat in that shop in Stainer, right? And I knew I had to do something. So I got at it. I beat feet. And for 10 years, I did 2 trade shows a year out of pocket. Nobody, I backed myself, right? But now I'm still getting, the benefits from that. Years later, I'm still getting companies saying, hey, what can we do? I just designed a throwing axe for an axe throwing company that you drink beer and throw axes. How cool, right? Because now I can work on because I'm not busy anymore. I'm active. Busy is living someone else's dream. Active is living our own. So I'm very active, right? So because now I only work on projects with fun, like-minded, happy people like you, right? So I love the reciprocity of that, because if it wasn't about time or money, what would we truly want to be, do, and have in life? Back to the law of attraction. So we just take a moment, be still, and know ourselves, create some focus. Like, just because we're doing what we're doing doesn't mean we have to, right? Just because we've been doing what our mom and pa says and what our siblings say and what we think we should be doing, why not just take 5 minutes, take an hour, and just sit down and make that list, the A list and the B list. A is where I am, A is where I are, B is where I want to be. So if it wasn't about time or money, what would I want to do? Who would my partner be? What would I wake up to? What kind of house would I live in? Right? For me, I got this list from Frank Kern, and it's called The Perfect Average Day, in which Frank Kern says he wants to wake up with someone he loves in a brightly lit room, start work around 10 o'clock, work with fun, like-minded, happy people. In the day, enjoy time with family. And because his list was exactly what I wanted to do, I just used that list. And then it was like years later, my life transformed. I started giving workshops. I was going through old notes and I found that list. Then it hit me, oh my gosh, I'm living that list right now.
Nice.
Because I did the action. And that's what I'm talking about, is Rhonda Byrne didn't supply us with the action phase. Great intention, really well produced. My gosh, it was beautiful. But again, if you do nothing, nothing happens. Faith without, as King Solomon says, faith without action is dead. Right? So a lot of these people got disappointed when she could have instantly empowered them and given them the exact tools, intention and action, because we live in a binary world. So we've got to use the laws of natural trade and commerce, create flow, right? Provide a product and service with heart, and begin with the end in mind. What does success look like and feel like to you? So when we sit still and know ourselves and say, right, this is like, what did you want to do as a child? I'm doing exactly what I was doing as a kid, which is fantastic, because this is the stuff that truly makes me happy. So why wouldn't I do it? Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it is. But it's only taken work and 20 years from leaving the military, right? That's all.
That's all.
But the key is to, right. Overnight sensation. But I find the key is to be happy while you go along, versus the statement of I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
Because you're telling the universe, I'll be happy in the future. The universe will then provide you more of that. Yeah. Whereas when we can say sincerely with our heart, I am freaking happy right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The universe then says, oh my God, you're happy right now. Let me give you more of that.
Yeah. I love that.
It's the key is gratitude, man. The key to success, wealth, and happiness is gratitude. Now.
Yep. It truly is. And, I also think that we've all had things that at the time we didn't think were great that happened to us or happened for us. And a lot of those events are the ones that I find that you can be most grateful for, because that's where you learned the most. And just living this plateaued happy life is, I guess, okay, if that's what you want, but you got to have the ups and the downs, because I find that's when you find your true grateful moments, when it's from the worst. Actually, when you have the terrible things happen, you're at the time you're cursing and swearing about it, but then you're like, when you sit and just look at it, you're like, geez, that's where I'm actually most grateful, because I learned and grew so much. And I know that from my experience, that's the case. There's certain things where you're like, oh, that was no fun or whatever. But then you look at it, you're like, well, wait a second. I learned more. I grew more. I met certain people out of that made my life better after I came through that or learned from that. So I think you just nailed it 100% on the gratitude. And I find that, just talking to people in general, that sometimes they get hung up on, certain things or certain events. And it's hard to say, look, stop looking at that one thing or that one event. I get it, but look at your whole life, like make your list, and I mean, we're all guilty of it. I'm certainly guilty of it myself, where it's easy sometimes where you get yourself caught up in it and then you're like, oh, you're down and whatever. And then you start thinking, for me, I start thinking, just a minute, you got to recognize what you're doing here. Like you actually out loud sometimes say, okay, that's enough, and start to get yourself back on track. But I love it that you guys just, you course correct when you have to, and there's no point in beating yourself up, and there's no arguments or name calling because you didn't do something. It's just, let's get back on track. We're up to our second break. I want to talk to you when we get back about, I watch you every day on Facebook. And for people who are not watching Brent on Facebook, you need to watch Brent on Facebook. He shows every single day how he goes does the cold water therapy method. And I'm so jealous every time I see it because I'm nowhere near there. But I am telling you, I'm trying and I'm putting it out there, and I'm in the process of getting there, because I think it's so very cool to watch. And I have to tell you, I laughed because there was a polar bear plunge not far from me a couple of weeks ago. And I watched it and I thought of you, and I was like, that's a daily thing. Like, that's nothing. So I'm like, that's where I want to get. I don't want watch a polar bear plunge. I want to do it every day. So I want to ask you how long it took you to build up to, and how many minutes, you built up to, and things that we can look forward to when we learn that. And I also want to ask about Kellyanne. I never see her in the video, and I'm not sure if she does it. So we're going to take our second break. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. We have Brent Beshara, our co-host tonight, all night with us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Money is complicated, right? Actually, no, it's not. You don't have to be a trader on Wall Street to get a handle on your money. TV shows often instill fear to keep you believing you can't understand it or do anything yourself. If dealing with your finances brings up a lot of other F words, then you need to read All Ladies Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances by Kathy Cook Noble. Kathy helps you take control of your finances and leave the other F word, fear, in the dust.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. And tonight I am joined by our co-host Brent Beshara. And we've alluded to, and we've talked a little bit about it, and we mentioned, I think, the Wim Hof method. But for those of you just joining us and maybe haven't heard about it, or maybe you've heard about it, but you're not really sure what it is, we're gonna let Brent explain it to us, and then we're going to ask him some questions that I've been dying to ask him about his own cold water exposure experience. So maybe explain what the whole Wim Hof method is, if you could.
Yeah, certainly. Great point, because it's a biological superpower. The Wim Hof method is designed by a Dutchman from the Netherlands called the Iceman. And he's been at this for about 40 years now. And in the beginning, he was called a lunatic. He's broken almost 30 world records of cold exposure and such around the world. He's done a full marathon in above the Arctic Circle in Norway, and just his slippers and shorts. He did the same thing in the Namibia desert without water, and what he's showing is that, because what he's saying is basically, if I can, Wim Hof, you can. So he's saying that we can do all this. And so I've been practicing the Wim Hof method, not actually practicing, doing it for about 7 years now. But my time in the military for 24 years, I froze continuously, right? For 6 years in the infantry, 18 years as a Navy diver. I froze basically my whole military career. So when I got out, I vowed never to do such a thing again. So I've got all the kit, all the parkas you could ever want, and sleeping bags. I was never going to be cold again. But then life here in Newfoundland is harsh. The winters are horrible, and they're just harsh and brutal, period. And so in September of 2015, my doctor said, Besh, you're not diabetic, but your numbers are starting to head that way. You might want to consider some lifestyle choices. The very next month, in October, I saw Wim Hof on Joe Rogan episode 712, in which he interviews the Iceman. So I was so intrigued with Wim's attitude and approach. I went outside my pond here and broke a hole. In Newfoundland, we call ponds or lakes ponds. It's actually a lake, but everything's a pond. So I went out and broke a hole in my pond and just stood with my bare feet, and my feet felt like they're on fire. And I thought, how can this man swim 60 meters under a meter of ice on one breath? I was so intrigued. So then I just took up the method. The next year, I happened to be in Toronto, saw Wim Hof in a one-day workshop. And then next year, I was still inspired with the people I've met and such. I went off to Amsterdam for part one of my instructors. And then that was in the September. And then in January was Poland for part two of an instructor. So I was an instructor for a year. But again, you're buying the branding and the franchising. I just wanted to learn it for myself. So now I just share it with family and friends and whoever asks. So basically, the Wim Hof method is 3 pillars. It's mindset, breath work, and gradual cold exposure. The mindset first is to know that it works. The science has now proved that all Wim's the work in the cold and the breath work, showing that doing the breath work alone, you get an immense amount of health benefits. And if you go to wimhofmethod.com or just look up Wim Hof guided breath on the YouTube, it's all right there. And he gives away 3 free classes on his website about the cold exposure. And you can look up tutorials online for the breath work and all that. So basically, the science now is showing that years later, simply doing the breath work, what does it do? First thing, it's going to raise our oxygen, lowers our CO2, changes our alkalinity, raises our alkalinity, lowers our acidity, our pH levels. And this helps deactivate pain receptors in the body. It lowers inflammation, it suppresses inflammation, and releases its own anti-inflammatory proteins. So now the science is showing, like, again, now my blood work 7 years later, because I get a blood test once or twice a year. And now my doctor says I've got the happy blood of an 18-year-old cheerleader, right? I also get my blood tested for live blood analysis. And so you can see your blood. They prick your finger and you can see you are literally what you eat. You see the cells eating the protein in your bloodstream. It's amazing. If you've never done it, you must go. Yeah. It's well worth it. Anyways, then that commitment to the breath work and then the cold exposure. So the cold exposure is a gradual approach. There's a 20-day challenge. The Wim Hof's ice bath or ice showers. You can just take a cold shower after your hot shower. You're still going to get the health benefits. It's great for losing weight. It helps to stay focused. Again, reducing inflammation in the body, great for sports recovery, injuries and things like that. It helps with our mental acuity. Van Gogh was prescribed 2 cold baths a day for his depression, but apparently he didn't listen. Remember, he cut off his ear. Ha ha ha, LOL. But the point is that it does work, and that was 200 years ago. So 200 years ago, they knew that taking 2 cold baths a day would be great for anxiety, depression, and paranoia. And so, I haven't had a cold in 7 years, right? Literally. Like I've been yes, a couple of times I have some little valleys of like, ooh, but then I just do more breaths, right? It's great for hangovers, gone, right? Because we're oxygenating the body. And what happens is in our Western lifestyle, it's very sedentary. We don't get outside much anymore. We live in room temperature boxes. When was the last time we were chased by a lion, tiger, or bear, or experienced a temperature outside of room temperature? So the body doesn't like to have that much stillness in this life. And so if we just try to seek comfort all the time, life's going to become hard because the body loves to be shocked. The body loves to get out and get wind in the face, get some heart rate pumping. The body loves that. Look at weightlifting, right? You're scarring the muscle and it builds up. So the body loves these shock proteins. Doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. And the body learns to adapt. Like last year, I did 30 minutes in the water, right? I thought I'd never get over 10, but I took Wim's Power of the Mind course. And then at the end of the first week, we do 20 minutes in the cold. And then I just pushed myself and did 30 minutes. And this gentleman somewhere in Europe, I just heard today, did 3.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Right? Wim can do 3 hours. This cat just broke Wim's record. So, we're way more amazing than we think, right? But we don't push ourselves. We just get into this sedentary lifestyle. So when we get focused and certain, we're able to remind ourselves that we're certain, whole, and complete, right? We're to center ourselves. This moment of centering, a moment of happiness, in the sitcom reality that we keep watching, this always be up kind of stuff, that can't happen. That nature abhors a vacuum. And so nature likes to work in waves, right? Light waves, sound waves. So we can adopt a lifestyle that corresponds with that. Like in the wintertime, we close up in our caves, we mend our nets, things like that. Then in the spring, we get out and do things. And in the summertime, Mardi Gras. But then in the fall, we start to close things up. So when we learn to live with the natural cycles of nature, because we are nature, we come from the very planet. We just have this misperception that we live in these room temperature boxes, right? Yeah. But we are nature. So I try to, I'm outside every day, barefoot, on the lawn, in the snow, in the water, because it works for me. Like if it didn't work, I wouldn't be at it. But, there's more and more people around the world that are doing this. There's whole tribes in Norway that, walk through the pond and the lakes and the rivers because it works. And now the more people that do it, the more people, you always feel good after it.
Yeah.
Right. When you get out of get out of a hot shower, you're sluggish, right, and cold, right. But you get out of a cold shower, you're frosty, and you walk out, and you're warm.
Yep. I find even opening the door when I let the dog out, he gets me up. He usually gets me up about 3 or 4 in the morning, and then he's up again at 7. So I let him out, and I'm like, oh, that's so refreshing, and right, like it feels good. And I'm going to brag a tiny bit. Like, so I do the cold shower, but Todd and I have started to walk barefoot in the snow. Right. So we just started that, and it feels really good because you're right. You get that burning and you're like, oh, and it's so refreshing. It feels so good. It's funny. I always liked the cold over the heat, but I never knew how to do any of this until, and I've read the books and I'm like, this is great, but I haven't quite got this a system, my own rhythm down yet for when to do it. And every morning I do the cold shower. So I know I do that every morning, but
that's it.
I know I need help with the breathing and when to do it and how long it should take. And what's the best time? Is it the morning or the night, or, how does that work? So these are all questions I have for you.
Well, I'll sum those up pretty quick. Just do the breaths in the morning. The 2 are unrelated. I don't even start my breath, because the breath in the pond is the yoga breath. Slow in through the nose, slow out through the nose. If you go to the YouTube, there's Wim Hof guided breathing technique. It's 11 minutes. Just follow along. Wim Hof tutorial breathing. And remember, you can always take the cold shower after your hot shower. And you can do the breath like I did the breaths before coming on here. Raise my alkalinity, change my pH levels, get focused, because it
So-
works.
So it's like a 10 or 11 minutes is what
Yeah,
we're
11,
doing.
but I
11.
just do like one intense round. They're called power breaths, but that's for another class.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna work on my 11 minutes. Because you know what, when people look at it, it's like, oh, it seems overwhelming and you so much to, and I read his books and I listen to you and I watch you every day go into the water, and Todd and I both do. And and I have, Lori Hawkins, who I mentioned, she's our other contributor on the show. Her and her husband do now, and we talk about it. We just were talking about it last week, and we talked about it offline as well. You feel so good.
Absolutely.
Feel so good, and that's the part that I hope people that are listening to tonight or whenever they're listening, either live or on the podcast or however they're listening, I hope that's the part they get, that you feel good. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's how you feel. And when you start doing it, I look at your videos of in the water and I'm like, I have to ask them, number one, how long it took to get to that. But number two, a silly question. We were like, what does he do in the summer? Like when the pond's not frozen. So I want to ask you that. We have one more break we're going to come back from. So I got to know, what do you do in the summer? So don't go anywhere. We're going to get the answer to that question from Besh when we come back. You're listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network with your hosts, Kathy Cook-Noble and Brent Beshara, and we'll both be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. And we have today been talking to our lifestyle contributing host, Brent Beshara, and about how we're going to spring forward into our future. And we've been talking about the Wim Hof method, and he explained it to us really well. And it really is, it's as simple as it sounds, but it's as powerful as it sounds too. So my two big questions that I've been dying to ask you are, Kellyanne, does she do the water? And what do you do in the summer?
Well, Kellyanne has done it and she can do it, and she goes in every once in a while. But no, she's more of a cat. I'm more of a puppy dog. So for me, I love the water. So I just commit to it. And in the summertime, you do what you can. I still go in the pond every day for a swim, right? And now, like you were talking about standing on the snow with your feet, like I can easily, well, you see my videos, I'm barefoot on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And now this year I've got husky feet. It's blown my mind how well my feet have adapted to the cold. I'm just continuously amazed at how well the body can adapt. Like 3 or 4 years ago, we sailed from here in Holyrood to Trinity, and it's a 14-hour passage, and in Buddy's sailboat. And for 12, well, it was 6 degrees, but with the wind, it was like -2. And I was like that. I was in shorts and a muscle shirt and my Tevas for 12 hours. You can't fake that for 12 hours. And that's it. So just, the skipper was in a snowsuit. Right. And I just love it. Like it's, when we go on course and that, like if it's -5 or 6, I can easily walk that 2-3 hours in just shorts and a t-shirt, because the body, and now by adapt, because what we're not doing, we're not tolerating it, we're not resisting it, we're adapting. So to know that my body is adapting to it, and to do it gradually, not like once we've exposed ourselves to the cold, not run in and get by the fireplace, but just maybe stand near the door and allow our body to adapt to the sensations. Because if we just run into the heat and warm up real quick, then there's no growth. There's no, the muscles, the cardio, because what we're actually doing is training our heart to supply blood, which goes around the earth, a couple and a half times of arteries, veins, and capillaries and such. But what we're doing is strengthening that ability for the heart muscle to warm our extremities through this gradual approach. And now there's people doing 3.5 hours standing in ice. Like, it's profound and it works. It's natural, it's non-dogmatic, and it takes a couple of minutes, and we're giving our body a huge boost to our immune system. Like this whole thing about what's going on with the world and the flus and the COVIDness that's going on, it's an inflammatory respiratory issue. This breathing technique helps us to boost our immune system naturally without pills, right? To be able to boost our immune system, to be resilient and to adapt to the available conditions, especially inflammation. That's the primary cause or the root result of, because inflammation is not the cause of disease, it's the result of disease because something's out of balance. So when we learn to try to live more in balance, our body, our hormonal release adapts to it. But if we're living out of balance, either through sedentary lifestyles or poor mindset, then that's going to cause a hormonal disruption, right? Hormones are messengers within the body, and our feelings are biochemistry. So if we have a good mindset but poor habits, I'm going to create dis-ease. Same thing, I could have all the best habits in the world, but if I have a shitty outlook, I'm going to create dis-ease in the body. So the key here is coherence between our mind and our body, to know that everything's all right, everything's okay, and to just simply start where we are and work with what we've got to work towards what we want. Yes, it seems insurmountable, but just slow it down, take a few minutes, write out some notes, like, is this really what I'm about? Is this truly what I want to be doing, have in life? And if you're happy and right on. But for the rest of us mortal monkeys, it takes work. So this is just me sharing what I've learned, what I've seen. And if it can help me, I know it can help others. I'm very happy with my life. I live with a lot of gratitude. I've got beautiful family and friends, but it's taken work. I work at it every day. I'm not always the sharpest pencil on the tree, but, a bit of work and a bit of commitment, living with kindness and gratitude seems to really be paying off.
That's awesome. And so well timed, because the earth is changing, nature is changing. And we just went through that this weekend and moved our clocks ahead, and we're getting prepared for that next phase. So your timing is just perfect as always. And I'm so grateful every time I get to talk to you and have you on the show. And we have just a couple minutes left. I have one quick question for you. Is there ever a time or an age when somebody can't make these changes or make any adjustments?
No. So when they close the lid, that's about the last option you have. But till then, like my grandmother passed away at 102. Frosty still did the New York Times crossword puzzles. My grandfather passed away at 105. They had 77 years of marriage. My last supper with grandfather, I asked him, Grandpa, what did you like most about farming? And he just reflected for a minute, then looked me in the eye and said, independent living. Right. So I got goosebumps, because that's been our mantra ever since then, man, is to create an independent life, free from the perceived shackles and dramas, man. So there's never, now is always the right time.
I love it. And I love it. And for anyone out there who was thinking, yeah, but I have this problem, or I'm too old, or I'm overweight, or I have that, or
Then
I have
you're right.
whatever ailment.
Then they're right.
That's right. Yeah, they're right. That's right. But if they want to change it, then change your mindset and start there, because you can do it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited. I truly love having you on, and I look forward to our next show when we have you back on hosting and sharing some lifestyle techniques and everything. For anyone that wants to reach out to Besh, find him on Facebook, or you can contact him and ask him questions, or bring him on as your coach even. But join us here on Inspired Choices Network, where we definitely have Brent come back on our show regularly to share his insight. And next week, we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency with our youth co-host, Ashley Quinn Hogan. And she'll be on, and her and I are going to chit chat about cryptocurrencies and NFTs and all that fun stuff that's going on in the world, and trying to figure out what that all is. So join us again right here on the Inspired Choices Network every Monday night. And if you're not here live, you can join us on our app in our 250 or more because they get added all the time in our platforms. And we'll see you again right here on the Inspired Choices Network Monday nights.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Financially Speaking Radio Show. Kathy Cook Noble will return next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.